Winter isn't exactly winter around here right now, so we're going to talk about other things, and that other thing being the Insta360 X3 and why it's my favorite camera for sledding.
Now this is a 360 camera, but don't let that confuse you. We're not making 360 videos. We're just taking advantage of that 360-degree view, and that's one of the reasons this is the best way to film yourself, because you're never gonna miss that shot. The X3 has some tools, features, and capabilities that you just can't get with any other camera. First off, when you're using the stick to film yourself, the stick completely disappears. I don't exactly understand how it works, but basically because there's two cameras, the way the images are stitched together, they're just able to make this completely disappear, which is super cool. On top of that, you're never ever gonna miss the shot. We've all been there where we've had our action camera pointed at the ground or up in the sky, had it on the wrong settings. We go to look at our sick clip at the end of the day and it is not a sick clip anymore. But with this, you just don't have to worry about it. It doesn't matter if it's pointed like this, like this, like this. You're gonna get the shot no matter what. And you're not just gonna get the shot, you have the shot all around you. So say your buddy's getting stuck over here and you wanna take a look at him as you're ripping by him, you got that. Or your buddy's doing something cool off the side of you, you got that shot too. It's just so much more versatile and better than, just one straight boring action camera shot where if you miss the shot, you miss the shot. You don't have to worry about that with this. And I find the way this looks is just so much cooler, especially on those bluebird days. But tree riding too, we're just used to everything looking so flat, whereas you go to look at your footage at the end of the day with this and it looks more as it should. It looks like the trees are actually steep as they were. And of course the footage is stabilized. They do a great job at that. It's just like it's mounted on a gimbal following you around. Then when you go to mount it up, you have a ton of options. It always looks cool if you use the stick, but you can mount it on your bumper, front or back, mount it on your backpack, on your helmet. Options are pretty endless. Camera also has the 1/4-20 on the bottom, so you just screw it on there, on your different mounts, and you're done. And then we got this nice screen here, which I honestly only find myself using to see how much recording time we have left and how much battery we have left. And then speaking of battery life, even with this big screen here, we still have great life. This battery pops right out of here, easy if you want to carry a spare with you. But I don't find myself bringing up a spare battery for this camera like I would other action cameras, because it does have a really good battery life. When it gets down super cold, like -20 and below, there's not many batteries that are gonna do well at that. So when it gets to temps like that, I'll throw this in my pocket and then take it out and put it on my helmet, and we still get great battery life that way, but definitely better than other action cameras I've used. Then the image quality is great too. It's obviously not going to rival a professional level camera, but that's not what we're after with this. We're just after easy to use, functional, and getting that shot. We're out there to snowmobile. We're not out there to screw around with our camera settings and our camera. This is just so easy to just whip out, press record, and you've got the shot no matter what. Now, just because this video is sponsored by Insta360 doesn't mean I'm not a firm believer in these 360 cameras. I haven't left the house this year without this in my bag, and every time I go to look at the footage afterwards, I'm just like, man, does that ever look good? But like with any camera, it doesn't matter how good it is if you don't know how to use it. It is extremely easy to use, but let me give you a few pointers as to what I find works well with this. First off, use the stick. Doesn't matter where you're mounting this, if you're gonna put it on your bumper, on your backpack. I find the farther you get the camera away from yourself, the cooler the shot's gonna look. And then speaking of using the stick and getting the camera farther out, you've probably seen me ripping around with this one-handed, which obviously not everybody's gonna do, but it does look super cool. and it's a good way to test your skills and make yourself a better rider. So I challenge you to try and rip around one-handed and see what kind of cool shots you could get. Just don't hurt yourself. So my favorite mount, and the mount I get asked most often about, is the motorcycle kit mount. That's the mount I use to put this on my front bumper, back bumper, mount it on the shovel in my backpack. And it's a really good mount, super easy to use, durable. I did actually break it when I hit a 3-foot diameter tree, but that's definitely not the mount's fault. Also, right now they have a promo going on where you get the invisible stick for free plus 11% off the camera. So it's a great time to pick one up. The next mount I'd recommend is the helmet mount. Now you can stick it up top of your helmet here with the pole. You can extend it to get a pretty cool perspective where you can look back on yourself, or you could just take this right off of here and put it right on the sticky mount under your visor as well. It's a good option there because you can tell if it's recording, but it's not in your vision. And it's also one of the most realistic views having it just under your visor because it's pretty close to your eyes, and that's exactly the same perspective that you're gonna have. Another cool mount is the chest mount. You never notice the camera here, but it gives a pretty cool first-person view. You can see your throttle input, your brake input. You can see right down to your feet in the running boards. It just gives a cool first-person view, and you can see how much input you're putting into the sled. Another mount they have is the backpack mount. You've seen me mount it on my shovel, but the backpack mount puts it kind of farther out there. You could get it off to the side a bit, and it makes it like kind of like a third-person view where you just see yourself in like a GTA video game. When you're in the mountains ripping around with this setup, it just looks so surreal on those bluebird days especially. From the top, our favorite mounts are the bumper mount, the backpack mount, helmet mount, and chest. And I do really recommend switching up your mounting positions. You know, it's easy to just throw the camera under your helmet and leave it there, but then you're gonna have the same boring shot every time. When you start getting the camera out in front of yourself or behind yourself, that's when things just start to look really cool. So if you pick up the motorcycle kit and the snow bundle, you're gonna have everything you need to create those cool shots. Now, just because it's a 360 camera and you can reframe the shot however you want, doesn't mean you shouldn't play around with camera movements. Obviously, if you have it mounted on your bumper, you're not gonna get much movement, but if you bring the camera from behind yourself to the front, it's gonna create a pretty cool shot. And talking about reframing again, don't be afraid to use the same shot more than once. Just because we were ripping this way and we want the shot of us riding, our buddy was behind us and we could get the shot of him at the same time and use both of those clips. You can just get so many different shots from the same clip, so don't be afraid to play with it. You could be zoomed way out, tiny planet, which I don't find myself using that very often, but we could be ultra wide, wide, zoomed in, and you know, obviously when we're zoomed way in, we're gonna lose a little bit of quality, but again, it's better than not having the shot at all. The amount of footage you could get out of a day, even where you don't remember to turn this on that often, because you know, we are sledders and we're out there to snowmobile, like I said, is pretty great because we all want to come back at the end of the day and kind of at least be able to look at our footage or make something out of it. So if you switch to the X3, I honestly think you'll find yourself turning it on more often because the shots, one, just look cooler, two, you don't miss the shot. And I said at the start of the video how this camera had so many features, and I honestly haven't learned them or really even played with them. I pretty much just took this thing out of the box, pressed record, and what you see is the shots we get just from throwing it around on some different mounts. But don't be afraid if you get this to play around with some of those other features like time shift, slow-mo, me mode, because you could definitely get more creative than me. We've all been out there, hit a jump, done something cool, go to look at our footage at the end of the day, and it just doesn't look like anything. Whereas I find with this, it almost looks cooler than how it felt. Well, okay, maybe not cooler, but it looks pretty damn cool. So this is the camera you want, the Insta360 X3. It's just the best of both worlds. You get to enjoy the day and get cooler footage. So give it a shot, you're not gonna be disappointed.